Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. This Honorable Court of Common Pleas of Guernsey County is now open pursuant to adjournment. The Honorable Judge-elect Daniel G. Patton presides.
Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I'd like to welcome everyone to a special session of the Common Pleas Court of Guernsey County to honor Judge David A. Elwood in his 30 years of service to our county. I'm Judge-elect Daniel Patton, and it is truly honored to be the Master of Ceremonies for this afternoon's event. There are a number of dignitaries, judges, elected officials present, and so in order to keep things moving this afternoon, as Judge Elwood has reminded me, we have a light show at 5:30 p.m. I would ask all of the judges who are present first to stand to be recognized. Please state your name and which court you're from. Would all the judges present please stand.
Judge Lewis of Guernsey County. Scott Washington, Palmington County.
I'm Judge Gwynn on the 5th District Court of Appeals.
Dominic Olavito, Carroll County Common, please.
Bill Hoffman, 5th District Court of Appeals.
Sean Hervey, Harrison County.
Sheila Farmer, 5th District Court of Appeals.
John Weiss, 5th District Court of Appeals.
Edward O'Farrell, Tuscarawas County Common, please.
Judge Bennett, probate for Guernsey County probate judge.
Thank you. We also have a number of elected officials here this afternoon. I would ask any of the elected officials to stand to be recognized, and please state your position with the county in your elected office.
Jim Carlisle, County Treasurer, Guernsey County.
Dave Wilson, Guernsey County Commissioner.
Joe Morton, President, Guernsey County Veterans Service Commission.
Skip Gardner, Guernsey County Commissioner.
Chair Blanchard, Clerk of Courts.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be the Master of Ceremonies here this afternoon. We have a number of persons who have asked to speak, but I guess I would first call on Reverend Max Beery for an invocation.
Just want to say that behind every great man is an even greater woman. And Annette cannot be here today. If you have not heard by now, Annette is in Grant Medical Center in the ICU area after a fall on the ice Saturday morning. I'd like us to just open with a brief moment of a silent prayer and lift up Annette. Almighty God, we gather this day to witness to your presence in our lives and to celebrate and honor the gift of service. We pray for all who do the hard, humble work in the life of this community. Those who care not only for individuals but buildings. Those who cut the grass and do the cleaning. Those who govern. Those who enforce the law. Those who defend. And yes, those who judge. We especially gather to celebrate the life and service of one David Elwood, who has served this community well through his commitment to order and freedom, justice, and compassion. And so we pray that you will bless our efforts this day. Amen. You may be seated.
Our first speaker this evening is the Honorable Edward Emmett O'Farrell from the Tuscarawas County Common Pleas Court. Judge O'Farrell.
Thank you, Judge-elect Patton, Judge Elwood, Judge Elwood's family, my fellow and sister judges, the members of the Bar Association, both in Guernsey County and other counties. I see lawyers from surrounding counties, elected officials, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm always torn when I'm asked to speak at an assembly as august as this one, and for a man who means so much in my life as Judge Elwood. I'm torn between preparing remarks or speaking spontaneously, or, if you will, from the heart, and I've chosen the latter. But there are just a few things I want to say. There are a lot of folks who are going to say something here who have much more important things, perhaps, and will say them better than me. But Judge Elwood and I, if truth be told, are the odd couple in the judiciary. We met about 24 years ago when I became a common pleas court judge. I was a municipal court judge for 9 years prior to that. Judge Elwood had already been on the common pleas bench here for 4 years. And many of you know, but in the Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District, and I see the director, John Hoopengartner, here, the law in Ohio requires the judges, and I see other fellow judges from the district as well, requires that at least one common pleas court judge from each of the counties within the 18 or 19 county Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District sit on what is called the Conservancy Division Court. So we judges on that court serve as a, how shall I say this tactfully, Director Hoopengartner, as a super board of directors, if you will, to the board of directors, meeting once a year typically, and going through what is essentially pro forma business. But that changed some years ago, and Judge Elwood and I were very much involved in some issues with the Conservancy District. And so my relationship with Judge Elwood changed when he and I were working for some extended period of time on these issues, which were our responsibility. And he and I would tell you, have probably divergent judicial styles, but we have concurrent and compatible judicial philosophies. Over these years that I've known Judge Elwood and have worked with him, our relationship has changed. Some point in that time, the chemistry changed, and he became probably one of my closest friends in the judiciary. Didn't mean we saw each other all the time. It didn't mean that we communicated all the time. It just meant that when we were together, there was a special relationship that I felt, and I believe he did. And so when I think of Judge David Elwood, I think of really three attributes. The first I think of is humility. This is a man who has never, ever demonstrated, at least in my presence, an ego that is inflated or beyond that which is healthy. A humble man who appreciates how important it is that people be treated with dignity and respect in his courtroom. Secondly, I think of integrity when I think of Judge Elwood. I believe this man has demonstrated in his judicial service to this county a level of integrity that is going to be difficult, if not impossible, to surpass in the future. Although I say, with all the best wishes to Judge-elect Patton, you have your work cut out for you, but I have no doubt you are going to do a remarkable job. And then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, I think of grace when I think of Judge Elwood. Not in the spiritual sense, but in the sense that this is a man who has carried out his duties as a judge with a je ne sais quoi, if you will, that to me is remarkable. He does it with integrity, with humility, and with a grace that I think will be difficult to replicate. Judge Elwood, I wish you all the health, good fortune, and going forward that is possible for years and years to come. Thank you for honoring me by having me involved.
Thank you, Judge O'Farrell. I believe next on behalf of the Guernsey County Bar Association is Lindsay Donahue Angler, our president.
Thank you, Judge-elect.
Judge, may I turn the podium?
Yes.
You need to ask permission in this court. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure to be here today to remark upon the retirement of Judge David A. Elwood, who, according to the most credible and reliable source of Google, is the only judge in the state of Ohio to have the auspicious distinction of having an elf named after him. In 2010, the Ohio Supreme Court held arguments here in Guernsey County. I was president of the Bar Association at that time as well, and as such, I was invited by Judge Elwood to make appropriate welcoming remarks to the court. As the date grew near, I started to receive logistical updates from the judge. The first letter that I received reminded me that I was to make a few appropriate remarks to the court. That word appropriate was italicized. The second letter that I received a few days later reminded me again I was to make a few appropriate remarks to the court. Appropriate was italicized and bold-faced. About a week later, I received my third letter, which indicated I was again to make a few appropriate remarks. Appropriate was bold-faced, italicized, and is bold-faced, italicized, and underlined. The next day when I was in court, I mentioned to the judge I had received these letters, and I promised that I would in no way do anything to embarrass the court, Guernsey County, myself, or more importantly him, while the Supremes were in town. I then further promised that any other ordinary remarks that I may have made would be saved for his very own retirement party, so that is one reason why that I suppose he has tried to dissuade many people from attending, but I am very happy that you find people attended anyway. We have been waiting 6 years for this day. After serving Guernsey County for 3 decades, Judge Elwood has a laundry list of awards, honors, and commendations, both personal and professional, to which he does so very rightly deserve. During his entire legal career, hardly a year went by without him being named a such and such person of the year, someone who was an outstanding or distinguished recipient of this award or that award, or was appointed to some very important committee in charge of doing something great in the state of Ohio. That is the brief synopsis of a 30-year career. His reputation, however, as a learned scholar and meticulous jurist is statewide. In 2011, House Bill 86 changed a number of things, but important to this story, it mandated the court make specific findings during felony sentencing hearings. After House Bill 86 was passed, I was appointed to represent a client on an appeal who, during the sentencing hearing, was not, as the argument went, given the appropriate and exact notifications that were required by 86. As a defense attorney, you very rarely have one of those cases where you think, aha, I've got one. And I was very excited for the oral arguments in this case. I felt confident that the 3-judge panel of the 5th District Court of Appeals would rule in favor of my client. I excitedly drove up to Tuscarawas County and waited for the case to be called. I began my presentation, and I was about 2 minutes into my argument when someone on the panel interrupted to ask, Attorney Donahue, we all read your brief on this matter, and what you're really arguing is if in this specific instance the trial court erred when it sentenced your client. You're asking, did the court get close enough to ring the bell, so to speak? Feeling more confident that the judges were seeing my side of this argument, I said, yes, Your Honor, that is my argument before the court. To which that judge stated, well, we're all pretty familiar with how Judge Elwood runs his court, so, and his voice trailed off because there really wasn't anything left to say after that. It was pretty much the nicest, most professional way I've ever been told to sit down and stop talking. And I think it's especially interesting that I had nothing to do with this, but if you notice on the agenda for today, only under my name is it in parentheses to please keep remarks brief due to the time of But this is Judge Elwood. He is a public servant whose reputation in the legal community precedes him. A judge whose vision and dedication to the law has benefited more than just the residents of Guernsey County. The oil and gas docket that he has created has been used as a model statewide to serve justice for our residents. His efforts at protecting our community from the drug epidemic through the use of the Smart Court grant were unparalleled. of the 12 counties in the state of Ohio, only 12 of the 88 received this grant. And it was only Guernsey County that met or exceeded or surpassed all of the criteria of that grant. Judge Elwood consistently acts in ways that are in the best interest of the community. And in that vein, he has created a legacy of knowledge, enthusiasm, and perseverance to which we all should aspire. I have been very fortunate to practice in front of Judge Elwood for the past 8 years. I have learned much from him as he has acted, either willingly or not, as a mentor to myself and many others who are here in this courtroom. As I find myself now turning to a position of public employment, I know that the lessons I have learned from Judge Elwood will continue. I will continue to be italicized, bold-faced, and underline appropriate in my actions in representing Guernsey County. And I will do so in part because of the traditions of excellence that Judge Elwood has created. So on behalf of the Guernsey County Bar Association, members past and present, we would like to present Judge David A. Elwood with this memento. We presented to Honorable Judge David A. Elwood in appreciation of your exemplary career of service to the people of Guernsey County. Thank you for your service, Judge.
Thank you, Lindsay. You are correct. It is only under your name that it says. I next want to recognize our Clerk of Courts, Teresa Dankovic, and Carrie wishes to say a few words here this afternoon.
And mine will be very short. Judge knows. I've been honored to serve Judge Elwood as his Clerk of Court of Common Pleas for 25 of his 30 years on the bench. The judge always introduces me to jurors when they come to court as that I am a separately elected official. Now, there's a story with that got started with a certain bailiff who will remain unnamed, Tim Oliver. Tim always says that that's because he stresses that separate elected official because the judge would never hire me. Once that made known. Well, it really is true that the judge did hire me once because I was one of his first legal secretaries in his first law practice. So actually the judge and I have worked together off and on for 39 years. And I'm not that old, but the judge is a few years ahead of me, but I'm not that old. I've also been designated as a spoiled clerk in the state of Ohio by my Clerks Association because one time when I needed to look at a computer system in another county, down in Athens County, the judge said, well, we'll just go do that. So we hopped in his plane, and off we went to Athens County. Now, Judge, I'm curious to see what you call me after the first of the year, because right now the judge always comes up to me and says, hello, my clerk. So I'm anxious to see what your greeting will be. But on behalf of myself and my entire staff, we wish you the best in your retirement, and I will always be your clerk.
This is true role reversal. May it please the court. Okay. On behalf of my fellow judges, three who are with me today, Judge Gwynn, Judge Hoffman, Judge Wise, and Judge Baldwin and Judge Delaney, we are pleased to present you with an judgment entry entered on the miscellaneous docket of the Clerk of Common Pleas Court here in Guernsey, Ohio. I will be brief. I've learned that lesson too, but I'm also one of those people that probably shut you down when you were arguing that day. Only because David and I have a long career, and anytime you see that he has a snappy tie that is in the holiday spirit, it is because I have given it to him. And he did not wear it today in good taste. I will not read the entire entry, but only to say that whereas Judge Elwood is dedicated to his family and his profession, and whereas Judge Elwood is held in high esteem by his community, and whereas the judges of this court wish to commend Judge Elwood for his dedication and commitment to the people of Guernsey County, the judiciary, the Judicial Code of Conduct, and the laws of the state of Ohio, be it therefore resolved that the judges of this court join with the Guernsey County community in paying tribute to him for his contributions to improving the quality of justice in Guernsey County, the 5th District Court of Appeals, and the state of Ohio. Best luck, good friend.
Thank you, Judge Farmer. Judge Bennett?
Judge Elwood, distinguished guests. Is this on? They can't hear me now. Can you hear me now? You know, a couple weeks ago, Judge Elwood asked me if I would make a few remarks here at this retirement reception. And at the time that he asked me to do that, I had to honestly start reflecting a little bit on my career as well. You see, I've been practicing law for, 28 years, and then I've been on the bench now for 2 years. But my entire career, save 1 year, which was in front of Judge Henderson, have been in front of Judge Elwood. And so the only common pleas judge I really have gotten to know over those 28 years has been Judge Elwood. I practiced law, and I had several clients that had, unfortunately, many lawsuits from Ashtabula County to Hamilton County to Meigs County to Sandusky County. So I've been around the state quite a bit. And I can honestly say that wherever I traveled in my civil trial practice, I was always very happy to be back in Guernsey County in front of Judge Elwood whenever the time came. It was not so much because of the fact that other judges, other trial judges in the state weren't handling their cases or their dockets properly, but it was always something that I knew that when I was in front of Judge Elwood, this matter, whatever matter it may be, was going to be handled in a proper manner. I can remember the fact and I know over the years that he has always treated out-of-town lawyers with a great deal of respect and professionalism. And I know, as someone who's traveled around the state, that is not necessarily dealt with in the same manner. So I always was very grateful to him for how he treated a lot of my colleagues who came into this court. The one thing you had to know about Judge Elwood was that he was always prepared. He knew his cases. He knew the cases better than you knew the cases. He always held his court on time. You were here on time, cases started on time. The docket was done in a timely manner. You knew when you got a trial date, that was your trial date. And so often in other courts around the state, a trial date didn't really mean a trial date. He always gave everyone who was before his court a fair hearing, permitting all persons to have their say. Decisions were well written and very clear and concise. We can all remember, as practicing members of the bar, receiving those entries that said, granted in part, denied in part. He was always fair. That was probably the number one thing I can say about Judge Elwood. He's always been fair. And you always felt that when you appeared before his court, that your client was going to get a fair shake. And as a result of that, that is something that I have tried in my short 2 years on the bench to instill in my court, is that everybody gets a fair shake, everybody gets a chance to be heard, because it's only justice if everyone believes that they had the opportunity to be heard with what their problem was. We all well know how disciplined Judge Elwood's court is, that he really doesn't put up with a lot of nonsense in court, and that's good. But he does have that wry sense of humor that always comes out. And I have to tell a story now, Judge. And it brings back a good memory whenever I was thinking about years ago, and we still do it now to a certain degree. We'd have arraignment hearings, and it was like a cattle call. You'd all bring all the defendants, and they would sit in the back, and then you have the defense counsel getting ready to be appointed. And so this one gentleman was called up for arraignment, and he was charged with burglary and theft. And Judge Elwood asked him the question whether or not he had counsel representing him that day, and the fellow said, "No, Your Honor, I can't afford a lawyer." So Judge Elwood asked him, he says, "Well, do you have a job?" He says, no, sir, I don't have a job. He says, well, do you own any real estate? No, sir, I don't own any real estate. Well, do you have a car? He says, no, sir, I don't have a car. So, well, do you have any bank accounts for which you could go and hire a lawyer? He goes, no, sir, I don't have any bank accounts. He says, well, tell me, if you don't have any of these things, how do you support yourself? The fellow says, well, I'm a thief, Your Honor. At which point, he turned to Andy Warhol and he said, well, therefore, I declare you to be an indigent thief, and I appoint Andy Warhol to represent you in this matter. Mr. Warhol then got up and said, Your Honor, I move that the last response from the defendant be stricken from the record. That probably was 20 years ago when that happened, but that's been a story that I remembered for years and years, and I just love telling that story. Anyway, congratulations, Judge Elwood, on your retirement. I wish you and Annette and your family all the best in the future. I wish you good health and great happiness to the next chapter of your life, because I know you're not going anywhere, really. We're looking forward to seeing you around the community, and thank you very much for your service.
Next, we'll call on Joe Morton, President of the Veteran Service Commission. Joe, if you come forward to say your remarks.
I'm glad to see there are so many people here today to honor Judge Elwood for his 30 years of service. I was fortunate enough 13 years ago to be appointed by Judge Elwood on the Veteran Service Commission. Since that time, under his guidance, we've made many improvements. We now have a community-based outpatient clinic here in Cambridge. We provide transportation to both Wade Park and Chillicothe medical centers for cases that are a little bit more extreme. We provide assistance to worthy veterans that are down on their luck or have lost their job. And it's been a great pleasure for me for 13 years to work under the leadership of Judge Elwood. And Judge, don't think that the veterans have forgotten about you since you're going to retire. I'm sure you'll hear from us continually.
Judge Nicholson from the Cambridge Municipal Court was unable to be present here tonight, but he sent a letter and asked me to read that. And it reads, Dear Judge Elwood, congratulations on your retirement as judge of the Common Pleas Court of Guernsey County and your many years of hard work. You have earned your happy time at retirement. Hard work has always been a hallmark of your tenure as Common Pleas judge. Very few people know how long and hard you worked and to know the law and to conduct the cases in proper manner. The beautiful renovation of the courthouse in the 80s would not have occurred without your involvement. You are to be commended for your pioneering work in the effective handling of the epidemic of heroin and opiate abuse. Your successful operation of the care, court, and probation department and the various successes and lives saved in this area is highly commendable. You pioneered the opening and successful running of the Eastern Ohio Correction Center, which has been a tremendous help in saving both local jail space and time in the penitentiary, and the EOCC has had a very positive impact on many lives, not just in Guernsey County. Very few people know just how lonely the life of a trial judge can be, and you have always performed your duty with hard work and integrity. By your appearance and vitality, it is hard to believe that you have reached the point of retirement, but I am confident that you will continue to serve the people of Guernsey County in various and different ways for many years. Best of luck and best wishes in your retirement from this position. I hope you get to spend a lot of time flying, especially over the county that you love. With all best regards, John Mark Nicholson, Judge, Cambridge Municipal Court. Judge, our next speaker is Gene Gallo, leading into that, the Executive Director of the Eastern Ohio Correction Center.
I want to take a chance here to thank Judge O'Farrell and then also Mr. Morton. You helped me crystallize what I wanted to say because to be honest with you, I didn't know whether I was going to speak from the heart or try to be clever, but I'm not very clever. And you really reminded me about what is so great about Judge Elwood. I've had the privilege, let me say, to work with more judges than I can name right now, okay? But some of them are in this room. Some of their fathers I worked for. It's been a long history of being associated with the Common Pleas judges. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing. And I don't mean to keep talking about myself, but what I want to say is the one common thing that they all had in common, and Mr. Morton helped me remember that, was the commitment to community. All of them. I could go down the list from alphabetically, I can't even go there, but they all had a commitment to community. They all wanted to make their community better. And that's what I have to say about Judge Elwood. He always had the idea, how can we make things better? How can we do better? How can we make our community, my community, Guernsey County, the best place in the world to live? And I want to congratulate all of you because I think you made Guernsey County what it is. And what Guernsey County is a reflection of, or Judge Elwood is a reflection of what Guernsey County is. I'm looking forward to working with Judge Padden. I love this place. You have a wonderful county and a wonderful community. And I just want to congratulate Your Honor on everything that you've done for your community and for me personally. Thank you.
Judge Hervey.
Judge Elwood, it's an honor to be in your courtroom one last time to address you with the robe on and behind the bench. You look really good there. And I'd like you to know that my name is Thomas Sean Hervey. I have my Supreme Court of Ohio registration card with me, and my bar number is 0068907. May I proceed? I've had the honor to appear in front of Judge Elwood not only as an attorney, when I used to pinch hit for Dan Padden, we traded prosecutors' jobs off, but also to have Judge Elwood as a mentor, as a judge. And what I would say to you is I want to speak for all of the judges who had the opportunity to have this man as a mentor. He took great care and pride in imparting his knowledge and advice to each of us who had that great privilege to have him as a mentor, and I want to thank you on behalf of all of us for that service. And he went over and beyond what is necessary. He made sure that there was an open line of communication. There's requirements that you had to do. He made sure that he not only met those requirements, but that he not only became a mentor, but a friend. And that went not only to Judge Elwood, but also to his wife, Annette, who went over and above what she had to do to make me feel comfortable and my wife feel comfortable in a position. And, you know, when I first met Judge Elwood, we got walkie-talkies, we have security. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. An attorney dropped a pen. You had to get a swisher to get the pen from behind. I said, what is all of this about? But what it was about is we have procedures and orders that we're going to follow. And you know who's in charge when you come into Judge Elwood's courtroom. It's Judge Elwood. And we're going to follow what's supposed to happen. And as a mentor, he lets you know that as well. You are a judge now. The friendships that you used to have, the congeniality you used to have, you're held to a higher standard. And that's a taxing job for a judge. And I am sure in his retirement, you're going to see a much more open and cordial person that I know than maybe you have seen as judge previously, because he believed in keeping that wall between himself and the public so he could be fair and impartial and do the very hard job of being a judge. He gave me some great legal advice, but that's kind of boring. The best advice he could give me was the advice of how he lived his life. God, family, country, community. You can see how he opened today with prayer. You can see his pride in his family, who sits here today, and his relationship with his wife that's been apparent to all of us who know him. His service to his country is well known, and his pride that he has in the veterans and his work with them is self-explanatory. And if you belong to this community, I'm in a neighboring community, but he's legendary, and you know it, and you're privileged to have him, and you'll miss him sorely. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much, Lon. Next, we'll call on Andy Wahola, Magistrate for the Cambridge Municipal Court.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been a lawyer for 37 years, and after my father, who was a lawyer, the three people that helped and encouraged me the most in my law career were my father-in-law, Raymond Lyric, Chuck Shaw, the former mayor of Cambridge, and Dave Elwood. And by the way, I am going to refer to you as Dave here in court because I can get away with it now. When Dave interviewed me for a position in his law firm in August 1980, little was I to know that in about 6.5 years he would begin his vocation as judge of this court and continue in that position for 30 years. In that 6+ years until his election, Dave Elwood taught me how to practice law. I was employed by him for about 1.5 years, and then we were law partners from March of 1982 until December 1986. One of the thrills of my legal career was trying a wrongful death case in this courtroom with Dave. I learned from him how to address the jury and how to handle the witnesses. We were facing a couple big shot lawyers from Cleveland who were literally laughing at us, the backwoods, hillbilly, know-nothing, pretend lawyers from Guernsey County, and they were just going to crush us like little gnats. Well, the jury gave Dave Elwood exactly what he requested in his closing argument. And those lawyers ran back to Cleveland with their tails between their legs, and I don't think they've returned here since. It was a lesson well learned by me. Don't ever be ashamed of being from Guernsey County. Dave Elwood has been like an older brother to me, even after he assumed the bench. But as those of you who have older brothers or who are older brothers know, that relationship is a two-edged sword. There's a positive and there's a negative. Yes, I was probably Judge Elwood's greatest critic while he served on the bench, but I was also his greatest fan. He has guided this court with excellence as the law has undergone tremendous changes in the last 30 years. For that, we are a thankful community. I could also be critical of our judge. Once during a pretrial conference in Chambers, I believe Attorney Patton is present, the judge made a statement, and my immediate response was that he was full of human excrement. I used different words than that. He hesitated, looked at me, and graciously responded, "You know, you're the only person who can get away with saying that here." 1986 was a very busy year for Dave Elwood and me as he ran for election to the judgeship of this court. On election night, my wife Kathy, who is here, and we literally ran down Wheeling Avenue to the campaign headquarters. We were thrilled. Our hero had won. In December, a ceremony was conducted here in this courtroom as he took the oath of office. The courtroom was filled with people from all over Guernsey County, many of them not of any important position or status, just the regular folks who came to support Dave Elwood. I was president of the Bar Association that year and was asked to speak. During that time, I pointed to the crowd and said, "You see all these people, they believe in you. Don't forget them. Don't let them down." And during his 30 years as judge, Dave Elwood didn't forget the little guy, the regular hard-working people that make Guernsey County great. And that is the legacy of Dave Elwood.
We have another letter from Judge David King from the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas. Judge King was unable to be here this evening. And he writes, "Dear Judge Elwood, congratulations for 30 years of honorable service on the Supreme Court of Guernsey County." Just reading what he wrote, Judge. So. You hardly look a day older, a minor miracle considering all that you've been through. That would include everything from dealing with the Grand Militia to a homicidal law director or the terrorist from my home area on the other side of the proverbial railroad tracks, in this case, I-70. As you know, I tunneled out of Byesville in the mid-60s and fled to a sanctuary city in central Ohio. We took the bench together in January 1987 in separate counties with different populations but similar challenges. I don't know if I could have survived in your venue where you can't sit a bond or go to lunch without being under the watchful eye of the Daily Jeffersonian. In the late 90s, you lined me up to be president of the Ohio Common Pleas Judges Association. Of course, that wasn't to occur until a couple of years after you personally served as president and made sure the organization was strong enough to make it through my upcoming term. Mary Ann and I have always looked forward to the association gatherings as a time when we could visit with you and Annette and catch up on Guernsey County current events and gossip. We never had the guts to fly with you in your airplane, but we did enjoy cruising on Seneca Lake and seeing you both in the living Word. Most of all, it has been my blessing to have your guidance and fellowship through these 3 decades. Where did they go? You have presided so well without a hint of impropriety. Well done, good and faithful servant. Respectfully, David E. King, Judge, Common Pleas Court, Franklin County, Ohio. Judge, we'll next call on Z. Daniel Barnett for some remarks.
Thank you, Judge-elect. And I'm from AVC Communications, where we don't watch the judge have lunch. We are invited to lunch with him. Take that, Ray Booth. As I look around this courtroom at the many distinguished faces, I realize that I've known Judge David Elwood for a much shorter time than probably most of you. We met a dozen years ago, both as performers in the Living Word outdoor drama, Cambridge's Passion Play. I performed as Judas. Don't hold that against me. Someone has to do that job. Judge Elwood was Pontius Pilate, who will go down in infamy for his self-service and his specious judgment. It's interesting how people often play the roles that are so different from them, because nothing could be further from Judge Elwood. There are many things to be admired about the judge, paramount of which, especially in this room, is his sense of justice. Even as a reporter watching cases over which Judge Elwood presided, I learned that justice is not vengeance, it is not condescension, it is not politically expedient. As Thomas Aquinas said, justice without mercy is cruelty, and nowhere is that more evident than in this courtroom. Judge Elwood is unwaveringly fair, even in the most heinous, most difficult cases. Each fact is presented and weighed, considered and placed on the balance that is justice. This is part and parcel of who His Honor is. I had the pleasure of doing an exit interview with Judge Elwood last week, and he said to me, and I'm sure this will not surprise any of you, that he is not a man of talents, but of hard work. And the latter is, of course, true. He is a hardworking person. But the former speaks to the judge's humility that you've all highlighted today. I won't talk about the many talents that you've all talked about today when it comes to Judge Elwood, but I will talk about your insight. More specifically, your ability to see promise in others and to cultivate it. Whether it is a felon coming before the court-assisted drug rehab program, the CARE program, of which you are so proud and rightfully so, whether it is a military veteran, whether it's a young Freemason, whether it's a young attorney or a new judge, or a wet behind-the-ears reporter to whom you have to teach everything about the court system and still takes simple question phone calls. You also learned over that time that the words gag order make me bristle like nothing else. And folks, imagine the sinking feeling in my stomach when I hung the phone up on him after saying, "Start the paperwork." I've learned some things since then. There are many people who aspire to be great, but above all else, Judge Elwood strives to be a good man. And I think you can all agree that we have yet to see him falter in that. I am humbled to have you as a mentor, and I am honored to call you friend. In closing, these last few months have been full of final times for Judge Elwood. A week ago, he held for the 29th and final time the swearing in of Guernsey County officials in this courtroom. It was about 2 months ago that he gave his final address on Veterans Day. And in it, he spoke of his own retirement, quoting General Douglas MacArthur, saying, "Old soldiers never die. They only fade away." I would not deign to give you advice, but let me offer another perspective. That of Ulysses, as imagined by Alfred Lord Tennyson, who wrote that, "Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not thou now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield." Your Honor, congratulations.
Commissioner Wilson.
Honorable Judge Elwood and distinguished guests, and I hope you'll indulge me for just a moment because I want to acknowledge Judge O'Farrell because back, I believe, 1981 was when you ran, and I was your advertising representative at the Times Reporter who wrote the advertising as you sat at my desk with your legs crossed, showing me the bottom of the second pair of shoes that you wore out, knocking on every door in the Northern District. And I want to tell you, it's a pleasure to see you, and congratulations on the career that election has led to. It's an honor to see you. I do have a proclamation to read, but Your Honor, if you would indulge me with just a few personal observations, first of all. We've been acquainted for a lot of years, but truly got to know you after joining the staff of ABC Communications back in 1983 as operations manager, and you were our station counsel. And we developed a great relationship at that point. So it was with mixed feelings when we had to relinquish that, as you were elevated to Common Pleas Judge, and certainly congratulate you for that. I would also mention that the current radio station counsel is Judge-elect Padden, so I would suggest that if any attorneys in the House have aspirations of achieving the position of Common Pleas Judge in Guernsey County, I would suggest calling Joel Lasigo, the general manager of ABC Communications, and securing that account. But in all seriousness, it was after you were elected judge that my late father told me that Guernsey County had elected a man of integrity because he was familiar with your bloodline, because it was your father that on a handshake set him up with a business as a confectionery owner in Brookside, Ohio, adjacent to Bridgeport, before my birth. I'm born and raised here. But he did that with my dad on a handshake. And so I've got a pretty good inkling of where your principles have their roots, and certainly were highly regarded in our family. Another thing that has really struck me is the relationship that you developed with our son Stephen, as he is a youth and later through his college years, playing several roles at the Living Word Outdoor Drama, including Judas, and do forgive him for that as well. But he always valued that good, firm handshake and greeting that he counted on from Judge Elwood, and it's just something that's really been special to him. But one thing that has truly struck me over the years, and that is the passion with which you have spoken from the steps of this marvelous building on countless Memorial Days and Veterans Days. And I've come to realize that you're really not as much a public speaker as you are one of two orators that I've heard in my life. The other being the Honorable Robert T. Sechrist. And I place you in very, very high company there. But with all of that said, I want to extend my personal appreciation. And if I may, I would like to read you the special recognition, whereas Judge David A. Elwood is a native of Cambridge and Guernsey County, whereas Judge Elwood is a veteran of the United States Army and was decorated for meritorious service in Vietnam, and whereas, with the use of the GI Bill to complete his education, Judge Elwood received his Juris Doctorate degree from the Capital University Law School. And whereas Judge Elwood was admitted to practice law by the Ohio Supreme Court and chose to begin his private practice in his home county. And whereas Judge Elwood has also been admitted to practice law before the United States Supreme Court. And whereas Judge Elwood was first elected judge of the Guernsey County Court of Common Pleas in 1986 and reelected in 1992, 1998, 2004, and 2010, thus becoming the longest-serving judge in the history of the court. And whereas Judge Elwood brought vision and innovation to the court through the establishment and operation of programs such as, but not limited to, the Court Assisted Recovery and Education Program, or the CARE program. And if I could step aside for a moment from this proclamation and tell you what a pleasure it has been to witness so many of the hearings that you have conducted in the CARE program, and seeing the lives that have been impacted by the passion that you've exhibited in the operation of that marvelous drug court. In addition, programs that included electronic monitored house arrest program, intensive supervised probation, and others. And whereas Judge Elwood aggressively sought and procured grants totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars, helping to fund many of the aforementioned programs, greatly reducing the impact on the taxpayers of Guernsey County. And whereas the actions taken by Judge Elwood have garnered numerous awards and commendations on the local, state, and national levels. And whereas Judge Elwood's creativity and professionalism have led to his appointment to numerous boards and panels that have benefited from his expertise. And whereas the citizens of Guernsey County are the ultimate beneficiaries of his judicial legacy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Board of Commissioners of Guernsey County, extend both our gratitude and congratulations to the Honorable Judge David A. Elwood upon his retirement as the judge of the Guernsey County Court of Common Pleas. God bless you, Judge Abe Elwood.
Judge, I believe the program calls on you for a response at this time.
Thank you very much, Judge-elect Padden. I've always tried to remember who speaks last when I do an agenda. Guernsey County Bar Association President, Lindsay K. Donahue Angler, Judge Bennett, my fellow judges, my peers, my family, my friends. I thank you for taking the time to share this retirement ceremony with me. I've been truly blessed by each of you and by God. Now, as some of you have already heard, my wife Annette fell on the black ice that we had Saturday. She fractured her skull and is in the intensive care unit at Grant Medical Center in Columbus. But she is alert, and she wanted us to proceed tonight. However, her absence leaves a void of joy, for she has been my love and support for 40 years. So I'd ask you, as Pastor Max Beery did, to keep Annette in your prayers. Your remarks in my judicial career have been very kind, for you have honored, humble, a very common man who simply had the uncommon experience to serve as judge in the community where he grew up, among the people who know him best. Now, on December 31st, I will close 30 years of service as judge and 42 years as member of the Guernsey County Bar Association. And some would say, Judge, you've come a long way. But I would say, not so far, really. For I was raised only 3 blocks from this courthouse, corner Wheeling Avenue and South 5th Street. And as a boy, each day, I'd walk by the courthouse, to and from Park School, up where the Cambridge Municipal Court is now. And I was encouraged by my parents, particularly my mother, to come in and listen to the attorneys present their case to the judge or jury. And as a boy, I dreamed perhaps someday I could be a lawyer, or maybe even a judge. I could have not have known then that that would come only after being trained and disciplined, hardened, soldier in the United States Army for 3 years, time called the Vietnam era. And so, my friends, when I was sworn in as judge in this very courtroom in 1986, it was the fulfillment of all my boyish hopes and dreams. Many of those hopes and dreams have been fulfilled. Some have long since vanished. But I still remember the refrain of one of the barrack ballads of my Army days, which proudly proclaims that old soldiers never die, they just fade away. And so, my friends, like the old soldier of that ballad, I close my judicial career and choose just to fade away to enjoy life with my wife, my grandchildren. An old soldier and judge who tried to do his duty as God gave him the light to see that duty. Thank you for the honor and privilege to have served as your judge, and may God bless each one of you.
You can have a seat. You guys can sit down. Trust me, I'm just as surprised as you are that I get to speak last. I feel so honored. I'm probably the one who has known you the least out of everybody who has spoken today. Hasn't even been 6 years, but I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're here to celebrate you, believe it or not. We are here to celebrate your leadership, your career, and yes, even your retirement. I read recently where some people strengthen the society just by being the kind of people they are. And I want to narrow that down a little bit. You, sir, You have strengthened this community of ours just by being the kind of person that you are. Some of this has already been said this afternoon, so I'll be as quick as possible. You certainly are a kind gentleman, full of grace, even in the biblical sense of that term, full of gentleness, benevolent to all, and always desiring to help others no matter where they find themselves in life. As it's been shared, you have been a mentor to many, many people, some who are in this room and some throughout the entire state of Ohio. You have been a wise and trusted counselor to many people here, including myself. And if I may have the audacity to say to the judge-elect, you have a tremendous amount of wisdom, knowledge, and experience sitting to your right. And I'm not sure what the protocol is, but my mom always told me, don't be afraid to ask, and ask the person next to you. Judge Elwood, you're an example for all of us. A man certainly of exceptional integrity, one who has visionary leadership, and you certainly are a model citizen to this community, someone who is to be not only imitated but emulated as well. And finally, you're a friend to many people. You have been a sounding board for me personally, and certainly full of wisdom. And yet at the same time, you hold us all accountable for our words and actions, and I appreciate that about you. And there's no doubt that you are a shining example of living a life of service, not only in your career, but in the military, but certainly in the life of the community as well. Your gift of service is seen in the love that you express through your heart. It's seen in the compassion that is within your spirit, and certainly in the kindness that you display in all your actions. So I just want to thank you. Just say thank you for making a difference in ways that have wonderfully and profoundly impacted me, as well as the lives of many. You truly are a blessing, and you are a great man. Which leads me to my final point for all of you who are here. It states in Scripture that whoever wishes to become great among you must be a servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be a servant to all. Clearly, the key to being a great man, a great woman, to being the greatest is to be willing to be a servant to other people. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, and please don't take this the wrong way, but everybody can be great. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a gavel in your hand or a college degree. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree either. You only need a heart full of grace, a heart full of compassion, a soul generated by love. Everybody can be great because anybody, any one of us, can serve. David, you are great, a great man, because you have lived a life of service to your profession, to your community, and to your country. Would you all please stand with me for the closing prayer? It's really not a prayer, it's a challenge to all of us. Let our lives always witness to God's love in this world. Let our words always bring reconciliation to one another. Let our thoughts always be of peace. Let our touch bring healing to one another. Let our actions always count for justice. May all of us always try to be a sign of hope and a beacon of joy to the world. And may God's blessing go with each and every one of us. And everyone said together, amen.